about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So last night I was made aware of that one of my friends who had moved to Florida recently had been arrested last month for a DUI. And of course, my first thought is, did anybody get hurt? Did she get hurt? What happened? And I go online and all you see are, cruel and vicious comments. And I'm of a different mindset because I've had a friend who died of alcohol poisoning. I've seen patients suffer so my first concern is what happened? Why? What are the details? And, I always kind of caution people, before you start, bringing out the knives and pitchforks, can you please get, the scenario and understand what's going on? Because the more cruel you could be, the harder it could be for this person to recover and for their family to recover. So news broke overnight that former GOP chairwoman Amy Tarkanian had been arrested last month. Amy is absolute sweetheart. I know Danny, the family well, Lois, may she rest in peace, Jerry Tarkanian. These were royalty in Las Vegas. May they rest in peace for all that they've done, for Nevada. And when we were told in the news that she had been arrested in Bradenton, Florida, some of the details were, for me, very medically concerning. And I hope, she's getting the care she needs. But according to the report, this is being reported by KSNV News, she was found slumped over her car with the vehicle in drive. When the responding officer woke her, she allegedly accelerated and then crashed the car into a parked vehicle. Luckily, thank God, nobody was injured in the accident. They said her blood alcohol level was 0.278. That was more than 3 times the legal limit. When we spoke about blood alcohol poisoning already above 0.25, that's alcohol poisoning that could cause unconsciousness. The report noted White Claw seltzers in the car, but Amy is the wife of Douglas County Commissioner Danny Tarkanian, daughter-in-law of Jerry and Lois, and she has been, just her charitable, her heart. She has done so much for Nevada, and when I go online and I saw people just start ripping her to pieces, I have to say something. Being cruel is not going to help the situation. And if you don't understand alcoholism, you're not going to understand what could have transpired. So people think that if somebody is, let's say, arrested for DUI, that it's because they're like, I'm going to do drugs, I'm going to drink, I don't care about the law, I'm a bad person, throw the book at me. Oftentimes, if somebody is seen that, oftentimes it could be a mixture of medications and alcohol. It could be that they have an alcohol abuse disorder where they are in pain and they suffer if they don't drink alcohol, and that they are drinking to take away pain or in order for them to function. It doesn't appear like she was at a party, so the first thought I have is, is this something that could have been ongoing? How's her liver? And I'm not so much, to talk about her. I hope that she and her family have privacy, get over what comes next, with strength. God's there for them and they get better. But if you have a family member who sadly, or a friend who is, shall we say, in a very similar position, try to minimize and temper some of the cruelty that's out there with, let's get this person help. because the more they feel the world is against them, it's not going to help them overcome what they have. And they could inadvertently hurt themselves and hurt others. And alcohol is dangerous, and it's very addictive. And people have been going to alcohol. We just spoke in the previous hour about the opioid crisis, how, thank God, overdose deaths are coming down. But when people can't control, let's say, their pain, because doctors aren't prescribing pain medications or they don't have access to pain medications, sometimes they go to other things. This is just people in general. And they might go to alcohol. Or if they have depression or anxiety, or they have a high deductible Obamacare plan and they can't go and see a medical provider very easily, they may self-treat, self-medicate. And oftentimes when somebody's drinking alcohol, they don't want to drink it. It's not that, oh, this is making me feel good. It's that they're in a dearth, they're in pain, and they just want to feel normal again. Same thing with narcotics. I've had patients come in saying, I really, really need the narcotics. This is, when I had my practice. And I'm like, why are you selling them? What's going on? They go, I am going to have horrible diarrhea. I'm not going to be able to function. I'm going to be in pain. I don't get a buzz off of the narcotics anymore, they would say. I'm just doing it to prevent feeling like I'm going to die. And people who are addicted, and I had a friend who had died, left her children and husband, who survived her, and having alcohol addiction or dependency affects them as well. And when somebody does die from it, their liver shuts down, or their heart may shut down. They may go into an arrhythmia. If you go through alcohol withdrawal, if you drink every day and then you don't drink, you could seize and die. This is something that a medical provider has to be on top of. And, many people, and again, I don't know, I've never really known, I've never really seen her drink. So I don't know what happened in Amy Tarkanian's situation. And I pray for her and her family. And I hope whatever happens, she's able to overcome. But DUIs put not only the patient at risk, but other people on the street at risk and family at risk. And so something like this needs support, okay? Needs some, empathy and help. So for those people that are spewing cruel comments, you're not helping the situation. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So every now and then, one of you writes about some skeletons in your closet, or you're married to somebody you don't want to be, but they have something on you. And I'm wondering if that's a lot more common than we think. Now, you would think you would be with somebody who loves you till death do you part, who would never want to hurt you, but boy, do things get ugly in a divorce. And if you do have, shall we say, a past that you think is going to come back and haunt you, or it's already haunting you and it's already out there, how do you overcome? This has come to light with Cassie Ventura during the Sean Diddy Combs trial. She was with him for 10 years in a very tumultuous and, from what we understand, an abusive relationship with sex demands and freak off demands and abuse. And the defense is going to say, then why was she with them for 10 years? And the prosecution is going to say, well, because she felt forced. She felt like he was going to release the videos of the sex capades that he ordered, etc. And so, whenever I had a patient who was so worried about, I can't get a job, because I got arrested for drugs in the past, or I had I made some mistakes, or I have skeletons in my closet, etc. How do I overcome? Well, the first thing I bring up are some of the celebrities that have done well. Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. had multiple, from what I understand, jail stints. He went to rehab, struggled with drugs, and he made one of the biggest comebacks in Hollywood history. And good for him. Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg had, from what I understand, some arrests for assault and battery. And I think he also had served some prison time. And look at his turnaround. Man of faith, now a neighbor of mine, family man. And look at how he has just triumphed and made some really, really good movies in Hollywood. I'm sorry, Ted is my favorite. I know that's not supposed to be his best, but I love Ted and Ted 2. Tim Allen, we're being told, allegedly, I can't verify this, but they say Tim Allen was arrested for drug trafficking in 1978 and served 1 to 2 years in prison, had possibly a DUI also. Martha Stewart was convicted of insider trading and obstruction of justice. Lil' Kim, Mike Tyson. So, the first thing I do is I bring up, there's a lot of Jay-Z had, from what we understand, also a troubled past. Lindsay Lohan, Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars's name is Peter Hernandez. And according to Jeffrey Nathan law offices, he had drug possession, unauthorized possession of firearms, was arrested for cocaine possession in Las Vegas, but reached a plea deal. He has one of the biggest music careers I've ever seen. Mick Jagger, Justin Bieber. So, the point to these celebrities and individuals who had a past that, might haunt them later is, for many people, what didn't kill them made them stronger. And now, true, they're celebrities. So, they can hire an agent. They can, somehow win over some producers and get back on film. I mean, look at Mel Gibson making a comeback after his anti-Semitic slurs. So people are pretty forgiving. Remember the whole Bill Clinton marijuana thing? Well, I smoked marijuana, but I didn't inhale. I mean, that was the least of his problems after Monica Lewinsky and all that. And still, he's a hero to the, in the Democratic Party. People wanted him to run again, as opposed to his wife. So one is people are pretty forgiving. And so whenever somebody's like, well, what do I do? I had a criminal past. In fact, I think there was somebody, there was a medical student who was able to get into medical student having had a past DUI on her criminal record. Even medical schools now are becoming more forgiving. And so, if somebody has reformed, if they don't have a current problem, and maybe the reason why, these individuals are getting those second chances is, how when you break a bone, the bone that heals, if it heals properly, is stronger than the original bone that broke. Maybe it's because some of these individuals, like Mark Wahlberg, etc., who has found faith and has become a leader in his community. Maybe it's because they think the healing improved them. We used to think in the olden days that if you had a problem, you'd always have a problem. But I think many people can overcome. They could relapse. But I think somebody who turns their life around and redeems himself can actually be very strong. That's why we use in the psychiatric community, I'm a family doctor, but many individuals who have overcome alcoholism, just like AA, they're run by individuals who overcame. It's not very easy if you're struggling with somebody to hear somebody who had, everything handed to them in life, easy life, saying, you need to stop drinking. You need to stop doing drugs. But when you have somebody over there going, look, I'm going to tell you something. This is how I did it. I was like you. Look at me. It's possible. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. What I recommend if you're trying to get a job, etc., is be honest. Everything will be found on a background check or online. So you have less of a chance of getting, because I know people say, well, lie, work, get some income, because they may never find out. The problem is then you could be fired on the spot. If a company really needs your help and you explain what the charge was and you explain how you've overcome, oftentimes employers will give you a chance. There's actually a lot of programs, community programs that help employers hire people who are trying to have a second chance. Now, what do you do if the word hasn't gotten out and somebody does have something on you? You have to make a decision. What's worse, that word getting out or you living a life with somebody that you can't stand? And it will come out. Anyway, look at what's happening with this Diddy trial. His ex-girlfriend, now people are going to be watching the videos. So her worst fear, she's already living right now. And I remember watching a movie. I don't know if it was a Bronx Tale or Biloxi Blues or something. There was some movie where somebody's, the mob was after him. And he said there's an element of freedom to being totally screwed. And I was watching this movie as a kid, and I didn't understand that until I got older. There's an element of freedom to being totally screwed. Once that worst fear is overcome, okay, well, now you got nothing to lose. It's all uphill. Well, somebody will, say that I was a slut, or somebody will say, okay, so did they already call you a slut? It's over. You were called a slut. Now you can move on. Well, somebody's going to know that I did drugs. Somebody already knows. They'll know when you overcame. Looks like most of Hollywood has done drugs. And now that marijuana is legal, it's not as tabooed. So society changes. And when you look at other people survive, there's, you can, people who, let's say, some people are like, well, where do I find a place in society if I do have a criminal past or I have a drug past? A lot of times in the psychological professions, they could really use your story to help others. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity, but you have to be open to it. And you have to be willing to, be humble and show people how you've overcome, because there's going to be trust issues. It's so funny because I I run into people who could steal, and I don't know anything about them. Yet once, you're like, okay, well, now I don't trust them. You shouldn't be trusting anybody. No, you don't leave your wallet out, out in the open, because anybody could steal. So it's not easy, but it's definitely doable when you see how other people overcame. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So one of my listeners wants me to talk about the rise in women making more money than men and how that's affecting dating and how it's affecting relationships. So what is happening when the woman is the breadwinner? That's a change that's been happening. Now that, men have, there's been a lot of changes that have happened with men. I know the Democrats are trying to win men back because you could only be, anti-man for so long. It doesn't really help women when at the same time you're not pro-women, especially with what they need in sports and locker rooms and bathrooms. But women were getting hired at higher rates. They were ensuring, because of the pay discrepancy that had happened for years, many employers to look like they're not underpaying a woman, even if she needs to take off for other things, that she was still making a higher salary so that nobody could accuse them of that. There's been some very interesting changes where women have been put in roles where they make more money than male counterparts. And how does that affect relationships? And so, it's interesting. Being in a relationship myself, where I'm an MD, my husband's a chiropractor. We've been relatively even, but there's been some years where it's been different. And we have switched some roles. If one of us had to deal with the kids, who would lose more income? And whoever would lose more income, you go back and work, and the other one will, deal with the issue, deal with the kids. And so, it does, from a financial standpoint, does come out in terms of strategy. Now, well, if my job is the one that pays more, then if I have to move, we have to then move because my job is the one that's paying more. Wherever more money's coming from, that seems to elevate that sort of weight in terms of, decision making. And so for some, they're like, hey, fine by me. We're struggling to pay our rent or our mortgage. You get a job promotion. We will do whatever needs to be done. But, in terms of relationships, is that hard? What if, and one of our listeners, her son wants to, have a wife who feels fulfilled, but also, will take appropriate time with the babies, which she wants to do. But how does that happen if she's making more money? So is that altering the child rearing, the stay-at-home mom issue? is that, there are more stay-at-home dads now if mom is bringing in more money. But if you're, in a relationship, you need to figure out what's important to you. If what's important is you guys being together, being able to afford, your home, being able to afford kids, being able to spend time with kids, we're seeing a lot of dads very happy to stay home with the kids. They're bonding with the kids. They're spending amazing time with them. Wife's bringing home money. So we are seeing roles reversed. In fact, I think there was a study that came out saying a significant number of college-educated women are marrying men without college degrees. According to the research, they say a quarter of college-educated women are marrying men without a college degree. Why? Because many of these men are economically stable. They often earn more than people with college degrees because they work in a trade. And so things are shifting. And so, the idea that, the man's going to be the breadwinner and the wife is going to stay home with the kids, it's a lot different than how our grandparents, lived. Because most homes need two incomes. Most kids don't want to be raised by daycare. They want, to be around their parents. Daycare is becoming very expensive. They have a captive audience. Daycare prices are ridiculously high. So now families are starting to kind of restructure and see what's the best way to do it. Now, how do men feel about being with a woman that makes more than them? Well, in the olden days, that was very difficult to stomach. It was not easy. You felt like everybody would know. You felt embarrassed. A man's value, relied on their strength, their physical ability, the money they were making. Life is kind of different now. One, it's nobody's business who's making what. Two is it's more of an embarrassment if your child, goes off and robs a bank or does a school shooting, because they didn't get the nurturing at home. So I think society is looking at things differently. And yes, women now, I've always advocated for equal work is equal pay. If somebody takes more time off, then they will make less. That's kind of par for the course. You can't pay people the same price where one person has to work 40 hours, another person 30. But the salary should be the same. For the amount of time they're working, the dollar for dollar, that it should be the same. It changed, and it was different because when you would hire, apply for a job, you would name your price. I worked at a place where I was making more than my boss. And it was because I had asked for an amount. I said, for me to come and work for you, this is what I need to make. Well, if the boss had never asked for that years ago, then now there's other individuals that are making more. And so let's say, some of the discrepancies were also attributed. Yes, there might have been misogyny, et cetera. But some of the issues could have also been, when I first started to, be in the workforce, I'm like, well, what does it pay? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Whereas maybe my male counterparts were like, look, I can't take anything less than this. Well, then, okay, then we'll give you that. So whoever is asking will get it. And if men at the time in the 90s were more aggressive, then they ended up having higher pay because they asked for it. Well, a lot of companies are like, well, wait a second. The reason why she's making this is because she didn't ask for more. She took the salary. That's what was offered. Whereas this person said he would have come unless we would give him this amount. That's why he has it. It's not that we were, choosing somebody, we were being, misogynistic or sexist. But so now what companies are doing is, no negotiating. This is the price. This is what everybody gets. You can make bonuses. But then some people are like, well, the bonuses are showing that the men are making more than the women. Well, if women are home with the kids, taking off more, for, let's say, menstrual cramps or health issues, they are going to make less bonuses and women will make less. But what a company can do to protect themselves from being accused is show that you are still paying them per hour, per bonus, the same thing where it's all across the board. Now, there's a lot of controversy over should employers pay for women to stay home with the kids or for men to stay home with the kids. A lot of employers are doing that. But if it's not financially feasible, they're just, moving towards AI and hiring less. But, relationships are very, very tricky. And sometimes it's not easy, when somebody is making more than another. But I'm going to tell you something. You're going to have more fights if somebody is spending more than the other or if you don't have the money. So, I think a lot of the younger generations are realizing that they hit the jackpot if they have somebody who, one, enjoys working and wants to help contribute, whether it's being a homemaker or whether it's being income, and that's not something necessarily to criticize. But for some people, it isn't easy. They want to know that they are able to have a job and get a job and be financially secure and provide for their family. It's very important for a man to feel he can provide for his family, just like it's very important for us moms to feel like that we can nurture and we can be supportive and help our kids grow. It's instinctive. But there's a lot of ways to nurture. There's a lot of ways to protect the family. In nature, there's certain species where the dad stays with the baby while the women hunt. I mean, it's humans are changing. But that's a great question. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Product claims without proof.
every trucker on the road has heard product claims about an additive that simply didn't match their experience. Proof is found from third-party testing by a recognized, credible source. That's proof. Hot Shot Secret's Stiction Eliminator will improve your performance and fuel economy. For proof, we engaged the Ohio State University Center of Automotive Research to conduct an EPA-certified fuel economy test with Stiction Eliminator on a FedEx truck, a 2006 P500 Freightliner with 247,000 miles. The test showed a 3.6% increase in highway driving fuel economy from Stiction Eliminator, an oil additive. The complete report from OSU is available for download at hotshotsecret.com. That's proof.
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator, available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So some of you might have heard that there are some researchers in New York saying, whoa, you might want to slow down on the taurine that is being added to your drinks, like your energy drinks, because it could fuel and accelerate a form of cancer if you have it. So researchers in New York say that taurine, which is an amino acid, can act as a fuel for leukemia cancer cells. Now, these cells form in the bone marrow, which is kind of the spongy substance in the center of your bone. And it can, unfortunately, become or make blood cancer more aggressive if you take taurine. This is according to researchers from the University of Rochester. Now, they're not saying your energy drink is causing cancer, but if you have a proclivity or you have a vulnerability to it or it's starting, they say it can actually make the blood cancer more aggressive. And many energy drinks have taurine in it. Now, this study was published in Nature. They want to look to see if taurine can also fuel other forms of cancer like colorectal cancer. We're trying to figure out why so many young people have colorectal cancer. Well, young people are guzzling energy drinks. And maybe there's a relationship. So the study looked at mice with the SLC6A6 gene. This gene transports taurine from different areas of the body. They also took samples of human leukemia cells and transplanted them into the mice. They discovered that taurine is produced by a subset of healthy cells in the bone marrow where leukemia grows. The gene transports taurine from the bone marrow to leukemia cells. They believe this is the first time taurine has been found in bone marrow. And leukemia is a blood cancer that strikes 67,000 Americans. My uncle was only 13 when he was killed by leukemia. And we're expecting about 23,000 people, according to Daily Mail, to die this year of leukemia alone. Leukemia cells need taurine. They go through glycolysis where they break down sugar. Glycolysis is needed by cancer cells for them to grow because sugar is their fuel. Because taurine helps leukemia cells go through glycolysis, it's helping these cancer cells multiply. So what is taurine? Well, taurine is an amino acid. It concentrates in our brain, eyes, heart, and muscle, according to Healthline. And amino acids are like the building blocks of protein, but taurine doesn't necessarily build proteins. It's considered an essential amino acid because it's used by the body during certain times, illness, stress, and it's needed for certain processes that happen in your body. So some people think taurine comes from urine. We're being told it was isolated from bile of an ox. This was back in 1827. The Latin name for ox is Bos taurus, right? Like Taurus, is that like those born in May? You're a Taurus zodiac sign? That's ox. So taurine originates from, they say, the bile of an ox. It's found in some foods, but your body can produce it by itself. It's unlikely that we're deficient in taurine, but newborns and infants can. So sources of taurine could come from meat, seafood, dairy. I don't think you could get taurine from plants. So when some people say, well, some vegan diets cause people to not get their essential amino acids, one of these essential amino acids might not necessarily be taurine, but I'm not 100% sure. There might be some plant that has it. But people can get their taurine from food, yet many get them from energy drinks. Some energy drinks provide 750 milligrams per 8 ounces. I'm not sure why it's put in there. They also don't think the taurine is naturally from oxes. They think it's synthetic. And that's why vegetarians might use these supplements because they don't come from animal products. Some people are lacto-ovo vegetarians, so they could get dairy and egg, and they could maybe get their taurine that way. But taurine will maintain proper hydration and electrolyte balance in your cells. It'll help form bile salts, which we need for digestion. It'll help regulate minerals such as calcium within your cells. According to Healthline, it'll also support some of your central nervous system functioning and eyes and regulate your immune system health and antioxidant function. The body can produce it, but sometimes you need more. Now, what are some of the benefits? So they say taurine may help fight diabetes because it's an antioxidant, has anti-inflammatory properties, could enhance insulin sensitivity. If your insulin is more sensitive, like the key to the door, more sugar gets in from the bloodstream to the cell, kind of like the hallway to the door. They say current research on the effects of taurine supplements for diabetes management is limited. But in 2018, there was a review looking that might be a therapeutic option for people to take taurine to improve their blood sugar. They also think taurine may help improve heart health. may help regulate blood pressure, improve heart function, may help reduce cholesterol. One study said people with heart failure who took the 500 milligrams of taurine 3 times daily for 2 weeks showed a significant reductions in their cholesterol, triglycerides, C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory biomarker. So that was pretty good. Blood pressure changes. Some people think it's going to boost exercise performance, increasing oxygen uptake, less time or more time it takes before you start getting fatigued, reduce muscle damage, your recovery time improves. And they think that maybe taurine could help benefit your hearing, offer neuroprotective effects, support your liver, and benefit eye health. So what about the risks? Well, according to this one study from New York, they think maybe it could unfortunately make your leukemia more aggressive. They say 2019 reports suggest that the highly dose you should take is 3 grams a day. That should be the highest. Don't go beyond that. Although the European Food Safety Authority suggested 6 grams a day could be the cutoff. Problem is some people don't tolerate a certain amount of taurine. They could have vomiting, nausea. They could affect their liver. They could have headache. They could have stomach pain. So they say be careful. Another thing is taurine acts as a cytokine P450 enzyme inhibitor. So if you take, there's been some concern. I haven't really seen the data, but some concern that it could interfere with some of your medication, such as your statins. So you got to be very careful if you're taking anti-epileptic drugs, antidepressants, Coumadin or warfarin or statins for cholesterol. So, it's interesting because RFK Jr. is really looking at the science behind supplementing and infusing fluoride into our water, into taking extra fluoride. Is anybody looking at why taurine is in our energy drinks? And is that really, really necessary? And so, we might be just doing too much. And I didn't get a lot of, shall we say, research or tutelage as it pertained to some of these amino acids. And, when I started to see taurine was added to certain, drinks, I'm like, well, I guess, somebody wants us to get more taurine in our body. But, as we've seen, what might be helpful for some might hurt others. You'll see these studies saying, wow, well, people need to take aspirin because that can help prevent cancer and help prevent heart disease. But then we're seeing some people are getting GI bleeds or it's affecting their kidney. So with everything I'm seeing in nature, there's a pro and a con. And we're left in limbo. We're left going, well, what do we do? So I would say eat a healthy, balanced diet. You'll get most of what you need with a healthy, balanced diet if you can't decide if you need to be taking any synthetic amino acids or not. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.